Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Today's story is actually about two people that both made the same trip. It was a trip to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It wasn't with our group, and actually it was a long time ago, so I'm talking to you not only about the trip but the outcome. And the two people made the same trip but had extremely different outcomes. They both started in a very similar place. Both of them, actually the first one really just knew very basics about Islam. They were both Muslim, but he prayed, tried to keep up his prayer, fasted Ramadan. Sometimes he'd miss his obligations, and he really wouldn't do much other than that. And he wasn't very aware of his Islam. The second person actually was a great deal more aware of Islam and had a lot more knowledge and had attended classes. And they both made this trip. But it seems like the outcomes were very different. The first one made the trip and was focused on one thing. He was focused on searching for what would strengthen his relationship with Allah. And as he went, he found more than he could imagine. He found in his group people that taught him the essence of Islam and taught him how special the relationship of Allah with Allah is, but with wisdom. They didn't come out and say, why are you missing your Fajr prayer? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Very gently they started bringing him along and really making him aware of this whole incredible dimension of a relationship with Allah and this new meaning to life he could have. And it was very important to notice that this person had two things. He had focus and he had friendship. The first, that focus was very important because there were a lot of distractions. Yes, Mecca is beautiful. Yes, the Kaaba is beautiful, but it's hot and it's crowded and there's people stepping on your toes. And there's, you're away from home. You don't have a washing machine. Very similar, simple things. People sometimes get sick because of the change of the weather or the change in the food. All of these things could have been distractions, could have taken him away from his mission, but he stayed focused on Allah. When somebody stepped on him, he assumed the best and he moved on. When it was crowded and hot, he recognized that when he wanted his job, when he wanted his degree, when he wanted his spouse, he had to sacrifice and work hard and invest a lot. And so he wasn't bothered by having to invest and work and sacrifice to come closer to Allah. The second thing I mentioned also was that friendship. He was surrounded by people, both in that trip and after that trip. He kept surrounding himself with people that were better than him, that he believed were closer to Allah than him, not further. And that environment kept bringing him up and higher and higher. And actually this person is a person that's really affected the Muslim community in the US very positively and has done a lot of wonderful things. I'm not going to say the name, but you would never imagine that that person started as a person that was just hanging on to his prayers or just, kind of pushing the fast of Ramadan. It's like pushing his limits. The second person, actually, I told you when they went to Mecca, they had much more exposure than the first. Actually, they had a lot of facts about Islam and a lot of classes and a lot of certifications. But it seems that they lacked these two things: focus and friendship. And so during the trip, those distractions, those side issues that I was telling you about, started taking the place of what should have been the focus of the trip, which was getting closer to Allah. And so walking to the Haram, all you would hear this person talking about is the heat and the crowds, and they didn't like the way people were dressed, and the inconvenience and the problems in the hotel and the problems in the airplane and the problems in the bus and the problems. And it was just a constant litany of complaints after complaints after complaints. it continued until it crowded out, essentially, the main purpose. I'm not telling you that it wasn't accepted. I'm not evaluating their worship. But I'm saying when they described their trip, they described that. They didn't describe, finding themselves or finding new meaning in their relationship with Allah. This became the focus of their trip. But it seems also the second thing was lacking that friendship. In the Umrah, there were many people actually that were good people, but as they came back, as the second person came back, they kept hopping back and forth between the crowd that was closer to Allah and this crowd that was a little bit further, but maybe it kind of looked cool. The grass looked greener on the other side. Opportunities looked possible on that side. The Quran actually really emphasizes the importance of friendship. And you wouldn't think so. You'd think, my homies, my buddies, my friends, that's not a religious concept at all, but the Quran teaches us something very different. The Quran actually says, Al-akhilla yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din aduun illa al-muttaqin. The closest of friends on that day, meaning the last day, the day of judgment, each of them will be an enemy to the other except those with piety and righteousness. Because they will see where their friendships led them. They will see that their friendships took them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and led them down the wrong path. And the Quran also says, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. On the day when the wrongdoer will bite his own hands, meaning in regret, saying, how I wish I had taken the messenger as my guide, taken the path of the messenger. And then the first thing that he mentions, يَا وَيْلَتَ لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. Woe to me, I wish I hadn't taken such and such person as my friend. The first thing that they remembered on this day when they saw the consequences, when they saw the report card, if you will, was that friend that kept encouraging them to make the wrong decisions, to do the wrong thing. That instead of pushing them and pumping them up to be better, they kept ripping them down to be worse. So the lesson from these two people are two things: focus and friendship. When you enter this Ramadan, when you go about your daily life, when you do anything in life, stay focused on the meaningful stuff. The great Sahaba and our great pious predecessors were not people that couldn't take a hot day, or couldn't take hunger, or couldn't take thirst. The legacy of this religion is people that sacrificed, and people that gave, and people that could put up with hardship for a higher goal. I'm not telling you to seek it, but when you're hungry and there's one plate and there's two people, we need to have the discipline to split that food. When we know that there are people in our communities that are in need of help, our Messenger ﷺ tells us we shouldn't be comfortable going to sleep when others, our neighbors, are hungry. Right? And the other service needs, in whatever the way you can give back to your community and make this world a little bit better through your efforts, we have to be able to focus on what's meaningful and make the sacrifices that it takes and give what it takes to get there. The second thing, of course, is friendship. Remember, as I may have told you before, if you're the best person that you know, I don't know how you're planning on getting better. So make sure you surround yourself with teachers, with role models, with good people that can pull you up, just as you may surround yourself with people at your level or people that you're helping along. But make sure there's always those figures around you that you're looking up to and that are helping you grow. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the best of companionship in this life and the companionship of the prophets and the righteous and our pious predecessors in the hereafter, to grant us focus and purpose in our lives, and to make our lives centered on worship of Him and on pleasing Him. Allahumma ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.